Hi, welcome back everyone. So for the next lesson we're going to be talking about graphing circles and finding equations of circles. Basically just concentrating on circles for this section. In this section you're going to learn how to determine the center and radius of a circle, how to write the equation of a circle, and how to graph a circle. So the standard formula for a circle is given by x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared, where h and k are the center of the circle and r is the radius. Notice in the equation that there's a minus sign in front of h and k. This is going to matter here soon. Okay, so given the equation, though, we should be able to determine the center and the radius. So for our first example, we're going to find the center and the radius given this equation. Our equation is x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared is equal to 9. Our original formula, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. It's the formula for a circle. So we need to determine h and k, but notice those minus signs. So we have to rewrite it as x minus something and y minus something. Well, we already have x minus 2. So from that, we could determine that h is equal to 2. But y plus 3 is a little bit different. So let's just rearrange this a little bit. X minus 2 squared plus y minus negative 3 squared. Y plus 3 and y minus negative 3 are the same thing. And that's equal to 9. So now we can see we have y minus k. And so k is negative 3. And so the center of our circle is given at the point 2 and negative 3. Notice that if you're looking at the original equation and the center, that the points associated with this center are the opposite sign from the points in the equation. So x minus 2, the coordinate for the center is positive 2, and y plus 3, the coordinate for the center is negative 3. For a circle, this will always work. Now to determine the radius, we just want to say that r squared is equal to 9. Take the square root of both sides, and we get r is equal to 3. So we have the center at the point 2 and negative 3, and the radius of the circle is equal to 3. And we determined both of those only from the equation. So we need to know how to graph circles, right? To graph a circle, first you need to start with the point at the center, and then use the radius to tell you how many spaces to move left or right. So going back to our previous example, we have the same equation. We have the center at 2 and negative 3, and the radius is 3. So we want to first start with the point at 2 and negative 3. So 2 and negative 3, here's the center of our circle. And then we're going to move in any direction, either up, down, left, or right, 3 places for the radius. So if we go left 3 places, there's the circle. Graphing circles on MyMathLab will be very similar to this. You'll start with the center, and then click on a point that's the radial distance away from the center. So let's try this again. We're going to graph the circle given the equation. First we need to find the center and the radius. So we have x minus 1 squared plus y squared is equal to 25. As I told you before, we can essentially just switch the signs within the equation. So x minus 1 squared, the x coordinate of the center, h, is just going to be positive 1. And there's no number here with y squared. And so we could rewrite this equation as x minus 1 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals 25. And so we can see that the x-coordinate of the center is at positive 1, and the y-coordinate of the center, k, is going to be at 0. If there's no number in the parentheses with y squared or x squared, then that coordinate is 0. We can then find the radius by setting r squared equal to 25, and take the square root of both sides. You get r is equal to 5. So we know our center, h and k, is the point 1 and 0, and our radius is 5. So if we start at the point 1 and 0, and we're going to move 5 spaces away. And there's our circle. Finally, if you know the center and the radius, you should be able to write the equation of the circle. Right? You can just use the values that you know and plug them into the equation. So given that the center is at the point -2 and 5, and the radius is equal to 9, we can write this equation. Remember that the center is h and k, and the radius is r. So starting with our basic equation, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. We're just going to plug in the numbers that we know. X minus h is -2 squared plus y minus k is 5 squared equals 9 squared. Well, x minus -2, that's the same thing as x plus 2 squared plus y minus 5 squared is equal to 81. That's the equation for our circle. Notice that once again, the signs from the center, -2 becomes +2 in the equation. 5 becomes -5 in the equation. So the signs switch between equation and the given point. Finally, we're going to try a bit of a challenge problem. This is going to incorporate some things from the entire section, so from part A as well. Okay. We're going to write the equation of the circle with these given endpoints of its diameter. 7 and 13, and -3 and -11. So what we essentially have is a circle, and we have two endpoints of the diameter. The diameter stretches across the circle through the center. So to find the center, we need to find the midpoint. And so if we refer back to the section before this, the midpoint formula is given by x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2. So if we label our points x1, y1, x2, and y2, then we have 7 plus -3 over 2, and 13 plus -11 over 2, which gives 4 over 2, and 2 over 2, which gives us the point 2 and 1. So the center of this circle lies at the point 2 and 1. So we're halfway to getting the equation. Now we need to find the radius. Well, the radius of the circle is the distance from the center to the outside. So we need to only find the distance between the center and one of these other 2 points. So if we choose 7 and 13, we want to find the distance between the center and one endpoint. And so if we use the center and the point 7 and 13, and now we're going to use the distance formula, x2 minus x1 squared, y2 minus y1 squared. Once again, we can label our points x1, y1, x2, and y2. And if we plug it into the formula, we get 7 minus 2 squared plus 13 minus 1 squared, which is 5 squared plus 12 squared, which is 25 plus 144, which is the square root of 169, which is 13. So the radius, the distance from the center to one of the endpoints, is going to be equal to 13. And so finally we can write the equation. We know the center is at 2 and 1, and the radius is 13. And so now, we're just going to take these 2 points and we're going to plug it into the formula. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. Well, now h is 2, k is 1, and r is 13. And so for our final equation, we get x minus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to 169. And so finally, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to find the center or radius of a circle given the equation. You should be able to graph a circle given the equation. And you should be able to write the equation of a circle.